Hi there, this is NekitaNet and welcome to this episode of Office Hours, and we're fighting the sun and the clouds, so you might be seeing a little bit of a discouraging exposition. Well, no, as you can see right now, we've got changing light, so exposure, that's the proper word. Today on the bench we have a Honeywell Fire Safe, the 1103G. And I want to talk about this because we've had this now for over a year and are quite content with it, though there are some caveats, as I just noticed with the stuff that was inside being damp and humid. So I'm going to click open the live stream tab, so if you've got some questions or comments you can, ask them and state them, and I'm checking the audio level and that's proper and nice, so that's good. So I'm going to unplug myself from my earbuds and go over what you get with this big case, this hefty big case. Well, first of all, you get a box, or at least we got this box with that thing inside. It's well packaged, it has some styrofoam in it, not all that interesting, right? Well, let's go over the box quite quickly, and hopefully I don't need to, well, change any of the exposure settings right now. Let's put on backlight compensation. Well, that won't work properly at the moment, at least. So it's a Honeywell case. It's a 7-liter, 166 millimeters by 407 millimeters by, well, 320 millimeters, or at least that is what is stated on the box. It has a UL rating, that's a fireproof rating, and it has a 7-year warranty. Now, that's all nice and dandy, right? Well, yes. Lifetime after fire replacement guarantee, and Honeywell is of course an American corporation. I think it's a corporation at least, but it is a big company. Now, according to the box, those were the outside dimensions, and the inside dimensions of this fire safe are 94 millimeters by 333 millimeters by 215 millimeters, which means it should be able to contain A4 paper. Now, if that is including some type of wrapping like an Ordner, or, well, at least we call them Ordners here in the Netherlands, I'm unsure. Now, it is hefty. On the box, it is stated that it is 12 point something kilos, right? 12.8 kilograms. And it is a hefty box. I'm not joking. You get some manuals in a number of languages, and I am going to go to manual exposure and, well, add a little bit of light because, ooh, that's too much. So how about this? That's a little bit much as well. And there we go. So this is a little bit wonky in that regard, but let's move this out of the way. Basically, when it's closed, it is closed like this, and you have a number of keys, of course, with it, but you insert the key, turn it, and then you can unlock it by depressing the black tab here and then opening it up like that. And the manual states it has to be opened up completely, and there are some springs in here basically that allow you to open it up properly. Now I'm going to switch scenes, and hopefully we've got a nice scene ready. All right. And it is working, but I do need to adjust the camera a little bit. Yes, is this nice? This is fine. You'll see part of my leg, I guess, and we'll deal with that. Transition. So this is the inside of the case. There is some text written here. To ensure proper fire protection, the latch must be closed and locked. The chest must be stored flat horizontal. So in this orientation, as you can see, well, on the right side of your screen. It has a classified UL rating with a number, record protection equipment as to fire resistant rating, class 360, a half an hour. And we'll get into that because there are a number of different types of safes and I do want to talk about them a little bit. But you get this silica desiccant pack with it. I kept it in. You get this stack of manuals in a number of different languages, and unfortunately these are now damp because I forgot to properly read this. And one of the things it states is that you should regularly, or at least, well, I'll read it in English, right? Read this manual carefully and never store it inside the safe. Well, that's a little bit of a funny thing. So what is stated in here is the Honeywell chests are designed to protect paper, documents and files from heat and moisture damage due to exposure to fire and water. Once again, you need to orientate it like this. Water protection, all models except 1101G, and this is the 1103G, so all models except that specific one. So this one is included in that type of protection. Independent testing verifies that the interior remains dry when completely submerged for up to 2 hours. Up to 2 hours, I would say proper grammar is, but that's not the thing. Important, that's the one I wanted to very clearly state. Due to airtight seals, it is recommended that you occasionally open safe and air it out for at least 30 minutes to prevent any buildup of moisture inside. Repeating, due to airtight seals, it is recommended that you occasionally open safe and air it out for at least 30 minutes to prevent any buildup of moisture inside. Now, I got this safe for one simple reason. I've got a couple of heirlooms that are worth absolutely nothing. Potential burglars, right? They're worth nothing, but they are important to me. I have a decoration of my mother's father, so my grandfather on my mother's side. That is a wartime decoration pertaining to the Second World War. And since the bank stopped offering well, safe services, so having a safe in a bank, we bought this to protect that one item specifically. And the price was 50 euros, which is acceptable for such a safe, right? Or around 50 euros. It is a reputable brand, and if I heeded the manual, what has happened to part of that decoration wouldn't have happened. The decoration is 3 parts, 3 different types of decorations for the same thing, but one of them has metal, painted metal backing, and that started to rust. And that's not good, right? The paper was fine, the rest of the things were fine because they are not of a ferrous metal. They do oxidize, but not at a rate as metal does, and this decoration you can pin to your, well, to your jacket basically. It has a metal button at the back that is painted, but since it has been worn, by my understanding at least, by my grandfather, because, you know, he got it, and I'm not sure if he really wore it, but it is not perfectly painted and therefore it started to rust. So I had to mitigate that, clean it up and put some beeswax on that button, that metal button, to ensure that it doesn't happen again, because I haven't opened this safe in a year. We got it more than a year ago, and we put that thing in here and basically just put this chest away, and now we have to deal with that little issue. So that's my one caveat with this specific safe. You can perhaps use the silica desiccate pack that is in here, but replace it regularly. I say like every 4 weeks or every month. Pick a date and replace it and air it out when you do that, unless of course the area you're in is at that point in time very humid. Now, the test. Because they state basically you can put an A4 document in there. I've got 2 A4 papers right here. And let's see if it will fit. And it fits perfectly. But as you can see, there's no room here nor here. So if you have a covering around a set of documents, I'm afraid it won't fit in properly, or at least you'll have to put it in sideways and you won't be able to put in basically 500 pieces of paper like a normal, well, Dutch pack of A4 paper is. And going by the size of this thing, I would say you can even put in more paper, but you have to use staples basically to bind them together. And that's fine, I guess. I'm unsure, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more space here. And an A4 paper without bending up. Well, let's see the other way. Yeah, let's move the camera over. Without bending it up, it fits in here just. And can you put in the desiccant pack then next to it? Nope, you can't. Now this desiccant pack isn't one of those that colors when it's full or used and spent, but it is used and spent because I put that wartime decoration, or not wartime, but post-war decorations pertaining to the war. I put them in, and I also put in a towel because, of course, well, that package is only very, very small. Like, can I make a square with my hands? Well, like something like that. So, you know, I put in the towel, and the towel was damp and musty, and that's not good. No. So, air this case out regularly. Don't store it on what I would consider the bottom side, but this here is the real bottom. You have some indentations with which you can pick it up. Oh, I can't pick it up like that. The fulcrum is too bad, and it is, well, water resistant up to 2 hours. And let's grab the manual, because then we can close off this part, and I'll demonstrate closing this thing properly. But hello, where is it? Okay, models 1101G, 1102G, 1103G, and 1106G, and this is the 1103G model. Independent testing verifies the interior temperature remains below 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's 177 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes when outside temperature is up to 1550 degrees Fahrenheit or 843 degrees Celsius. Now, normally, because of these ratings, which aren't bad, understand me properly, normally this thing is stored in a nice place, a safe place. But when leaving this thing, once again, there are no valuables, no real valuables in here, but normally this thing, when we leave this place for, let's say, a couple of days, I put it in the bathroom. And why, you may ask that? Because it's damp and humid. Well, it's supposed to be airtight and dampness tight, which we just explained. It isn't, not completely at least, as the manual states. You have to air it out. There is ingress and egress of air somehow, and therefore humidity will creep into this thing. Air it out. You don't want excuse me for the frames dropping, but you don't want any rust on your metals, basically. But this rating is very nice in a situation where the building is on fire, but the room in which the safe is placed is not as hot as the rest of the house. Get my drift? At 177 degrees Celsius, a lot of things will melt or will char. And it is nice that if you're in the home and you notice a fire, which you should, because after half an hour you'll choke, most likely die because of fume inhalation. So you've got a couple of minutes to detect a fire and then move out. Take this case with you, right? But in a situation where you are not supervising this thing properly, you should put it in a place that has less, my estimation at least, my personal opinion, you should put this thing in a place where it might get hot, but not as hot, because there are less consumable things, fire consumable things outside of the case. So the bathroom, in that regard, it has tiles, it has a washing machine. We don't keep the towels there, so there is perhaps a little bit of well, dirty clothes in the wash bin, but there isn't much to burn. So it's in a cooler zone in case of fire. Otherwise, and I'm closing it up right now, as you can see, well, I'm going to grab the paper from it, because that has nothing. Oh, it seals here, and there is a seal here, which is engaged by this lip here. So, you know, it has a proper seal. But I'm closing it and locking it, and then removing the key, so it's locked now. But by putting it in a safer spot, you'll have less risk of charred papers and melted stuff than in another instance. Now, you've seen it. I'm going to tip it over. First, change the camera angle to the normal scene. And there's one more thing that I personally don't really like. Can we get that in frame? Whoop. Right. Yes. So we'll switch scenes again. And that is this. This handle is plasticky. It rattles. Picking it up by this thing gives me the willy jillies, the creeps, because it feels not sturdy. If that's by design, I don't know. Perhaps it has to fall off in case of a fire, and therefore isn't as sturdy as I would expect from such a thing. Although it does work properly. You can pick it up. It's just like, oh, remember, be careful with this thing. You can't the weight in itself is enough to ensure that you don't mishandle it, but with this handle you'll always be very careful with it, which is perhaps a good thing. So I can pick it up just going like this, because it is a very heavy case. So my recommendation is, personally at least, put it in a place where it's always less likely to get extremely hot, so less fuel being around. So put it in, I would almost say, a bunker, but then you'll forget it and you won't air it out, which you should do, as the manual states, regularly, like once a month, I would say. I'm going to do it at least once a month unless it's very humid, and put in new desiccant packs. And these are not readily available in the Netherlands, but I know in American companies, so you should basically be able to buy this. You can get desiccant packs readily and get fresh ones every time you have to replace it, and replace it often. So I wanted to talk about this rating, this UL rating. Now there are a number of different types of rating, both for fire protection and for burglary, theft protection, let's call it that. I'll be more able to pronounce that. But I've had situations in a corporate setting in which they had a safe in a safe. So understand this, there was a safe in a safe, because burglary, theft protection, and fire protection in safes are two different things. They have both different ratings. This is a UL rating and stayed at 177 degrees for a half an hour if the temperature doesn't go above a certain amount of degrees, which a normal house fire most likely will. So, you know, put it in a safe spot without much fuel around it. But there are different types of ratings. And when you buy a safe, I can't say this enough, when you buy a safe, don't buy a theft safe or a theft protection safe when you need a fire safe or vice versa. And if you need both protections, ensure you've got a proper big safe in which you put a fire resistant safe, or the other way around. And I'm unsure which safe people, so people who sell safes, recommend, but I've dealt with situations in which data retention was very important, and they had on-site and off-site backups, and they were kept in a double safe. So a fire-resistant safe, most likely inside of, most likely outside of a theft safe. So that's just the way it is. These aren't valuables in a monetary sense. They aren't sellable in a monetary sense. Items that I keep in here. And quite frankly, at the weight of this thing, they would have to break it open in situ, because if you put this in a backpack, you'll basically tip over backwards, or you won't be very mobile, although I guess some thieves will try to take these things. Now, I got this specifically for fire protection and not for protection of theft. If I need to protect this safe from theft, I'll get another safe and put this thing in there. And that's not as handy as one might think, and I know, because once again I've dealt with corporate situations in which that was important, both theft and fire protections, and you have to open up two safes, which isn't as fun as it might seem, because of course the second safe inside of the first safe has a set of very heavy doors as well, which don't open up properly, and then you have to get backup tapes or put backup tapes into that thing, and that's a big hassle. Now there are other brands, cheaper brands and more expensive brands, but personally, considering the price, considering the quality, considering the specifications, this was the best option. And at 50 euros or round about that amount of money I paid for it, I was very content with this safe, because it is peace of mind. Things catch fire, electrical shorts, mishandling of candles, people doing stupid stuff, and outside influences like, let's say a lightning strike, and not having lightning strike protection on your home, and even if that's there, you still might get a fire. And living in an apartment block means that there are a lot of people around, so I don't have proper control of fire protection here in this situation. And these valuables that aren't monetary valuable are emotionally valuable enough for me to protect them. That's why I was also very ticked off when I checked them just now and found a bit of rust on one of the metal items. So, lesson learned. I protected it with some beeswax now, and after cleaning off the rust, of course, of that metal button that backs up that decoration, and I'll check that up in a moment, because I do have to clean it off and polish it a little bit before reassembling the package and putting it back here in this thing and putting it in its safe spot. Right? So, fire protection, theft protection, different things, different types of safes. Ratings aren't up to snuff in reality, because the definition of the UL rating for fire protection is that the information contained on the page can be recovered. Well, at 177 degrees, I would say the paper is still charred. So perhaps some very expertly people will be able to recover that. But once again, when I'm not supervising this case, this big little football, you know, wink wink, when I'm not supervising this, I'm putting it in a fuel starved area, which is the bathroom, just to be safe and ensure that there's less fire and heat if there is a fire. Basically, the best thing you can do is place this thing in a bunker and then air it out regularly, because bunkers do get wet and humid themselves. That's one of those things, you know, if you're used to like situations in which you have a data center which is air conditioned, which is humidity controlled, you've got multiple server locations even on site. I've dealt with those situations. You could basically use this thing to put in some hard drives and store it in the backup location or in the backup humidity and temperature controlled situation. And then you won't have to air it out as much and take note of it as much, but still I would follow the recommendations of of Honeywell in this regard and air it out at least once a month. Well, I say once a month. Regularly is what is stated in the manual, but for half an hour to ensure that there isn't any humidity in this thing. Let's see, we've got a question, a live question. Don Quixote, which is a wonderful nickname or handle on YouTube. Thank you, Nikita. What time is it there? It is 1554 hours, so it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's bad weather. So, did I sum it up properly? I hope so, at least. Do really check specifications of these things. Not all safes are created equally. This is a portable one, although at that amount of weight. Once again, the 12.8, excluding its contents, excluding if you put desiccants in there, silicon desiccants, excluding that. It is, hello, where is it on the box? 12.8 kilograms, so it isn't as portable as one might think. And if you put paper in there, there's a couple of kilos, I would say, of paper in there as well. So my little football will have to be aired out regularly, which is a hassle, to be frank, because I will have to make a note of that for a specific date of the month, day of the month, the first or the last, to do that. And I have to ensure that it's not more humid outside than in this thing. So air does creep in and exits out despite the seals, which is normal. You know, humidity is one of the biggest and baddest problems even for IT, and that's why you need basically in a data center both temperature control and humidity control. And because of temperature changes, my opinion at least, of course pressure changes as well, air does circulate with the outside on this case, which I now experience and am a little bit sad about. Because, you know, it is what it is nature, but it's still a case that you think, well, I put stuff in here and it's safe for eternity. That's not the case. 7-year warranty, 50 euros, or at least that is the amount I've paid for it. And Don Quixote asks, how much is that in dollars? And let's see, 50 euro to US dollar. Euro. At the moment, that's around $60. So there is an exchange rate which changes by day. So at the moment, at least according to Google, and there is a disclaimer there, but 60 euros excluding shipping, of course, because in America I don't know if the stores carry this specific model. That's the 1103G from Honeywell, but I would estimate you can order it online via Amazon and such. I am content with it. I am ticked off with it as well because of the humidity. That's my own fault, but that has been remedied. And where's my agenda? Right, my day planner. I'm putting a date in here for every month to air this thing out, and that will become religion in this regard because of the emotional value to the stuff I put in here. Right? Okay. This is NekitaNet saying, I hope you found this video interesting. Like or dislike this video at your pleasure, of course. And I'm getting a comment that Don Quixote states that's a good price. I thought as well, especially considering the UL proper testing that has been done on this thing. Right? So, if you do like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, well, you can do a thumbs down, but you don't have to. If you do subscribe to the channel, which I hope you do, click the bell and tick the box so you get updates from this channel regularly as I make them. Right? So, thanks for watching and see you in the next video. And scene queued up.